In this video, I'm going to show how to turn scrap range lead into lead ingots, which are much easier for casting, melting in a smaller pot, or selling if you choose. I'm going to use a Bass Pro fish fryer. I'm not going to replace the pan. In this case, I'm just using one that I bought from Goodwill, and then I'm using some utensils from Goodwill. You want to make sure that there's no moisture left in the range scrap you pick up. You can check to make sure that there's some lead exposed on any of the copper jackets. A lot of times the tip or the base has exposed lead. If you can't see any exposed lead, you can always use a hammer or a vise and crush it a little bit. And as long as the jacket's broken and you can see some exposed lead through it, that lead will melt out. Now as you're heating it up, that heavy lead is going to separate and sink to the bottom, and all those copper jackets are going to float up. Also, any other dirt, debris, or anything else in there that's not lead is going to be floating on the surface. So you're going to want to go through and start skimming everything off of the top. As you skim, you're going to want to scrape the sides, scrape the bottom, make sure you get absolutely everything out. The lead is considerably heavier than the copper, so as you scoop a spoonful out and it feels a little heavier, you may have a little too much lead still left in that spoon. So you can always let that go and then re-scoop. I like to kind of stir it around as I go to make sure any of the lead still in those jackets pours all the way out. You want to try to get all the visible dirt and imperfections out. Continue to scrape the sides, scrape the bottom, make sure there's everything that you can see is out. I like to put them into a metal bucket and then save the copper to take by a recycler later. The next step is the fluxing. In this case, I'm going to use a candle, and you'll see it makes a pretty good show. You want to make sure that you don't have anything close to the fire, either above it or to the sides, that could mess with it. Some other items that you can use sawdust, you can use beeswax. These are just candles that I had. What the flux is doing is it's helping pull out any leftover imperfections that may still be in the lead. Now, just like with the copper jackets, you want to be scraping the sides and the bottom. Make sure anything that could be left in that pot, any imperfections, are scraped up and let to float to the surface. Now as the wax burns off, those flames will die down. I probably used a little more wax than I needed to. But you'll notice those flames start to go down, and then you're just left with more of that dross on the surface. You want to just continue to scrape the sides, scrape the bottom like you've been doing, and it'll look kind of like black dirt floating to the top, and you want to just scrape all of that you can onto the surface, onto one of the sides, and then just get spoonfuls out and into your bucket. Again, the metal bucket's a good idea because everything that's coming out of this pot is going to be extremely hot, and you don't want to accidentally melt a plastic bucket or start a fire in a box or something that's not fireproof. As you can see, we're getting close. If you need to, you can flux with a candle or beeswax again, and you're just going to continue to skim the surface. Make sure that any and all dross is removed from the lead. The more pure you can get your lead, the easier it'll be to cast bullets, the better your ingots will look, and the easier they'll be to work with. Now if you decide you want to sell the ingots, you definitely want to make sure you have as pure lead as possible. Moving on to the next, you're going to want to start thinking about what you want to use as a mold. This nice clean lead is ready to cast now if you choose, but in my case I'm going to be using some muffin tins. And these muffin tins, there's different kinds out there. Cast iron is always a good one to work with. I tried a couple different from Goodwill. Some of them work well and release the lead. Some of them don't want to release the lead. This is a set that's worked well for me. And I'm using a small spoon here, so I'm only filling each one about halfway. You can add more lead if you choose. It depends on how much weight you want in the final ingot. You could also use a little bit larger ladle and drop a little more lead at a time, give you a little bit bigger ingot. Another ingot mold you can use are the actual factory made bar type ingots. RCBS, Lee, and Lyman make those. And they can make half-pound or 1-pound ingots. Now again, I mentioned the selling of the ingots. You know, if that's something that you're interested in doing, it might be a good idea to use the actual factory molds, because they're going to look a little more professional. They're going to look a little nicer. Might be a little easier to sell molds that look like bars instead of muffins. If you go the cast route, there's some novelty shapes, little ears of corn, fish, little different cast iron shapes that would look a little different. I like the muffins because they're easy, they're cheap to get the pans at Goodwill. If you ruin them, it's not a big deal, and they stack fairly well. What I do is I fill up all of them, and I wait until the last ingot that I filled is hard enough that when I touch it with the spoon it doesn't score the lead, and then I dump them all out together. You don't want to do it too soon because you could still have liquid lead, and if you wait too long it's a possibility that they'll stick in there, and then you may ruin the pan trying to get the lead out. So that may take a little bit of practice. Find what amount of time works the easiest for you. Once you dump them out, make sure you're careful with them because they will still be extremely hot. So you want to, as you can see, I'm working on brick. And like I mentioned earlier, you can always cast while you're doing it. In this case, we would do a muffin tin full, cast a few bullets, and then when they were cool enough, dump them out and move on. But this has been a quick video showing how to make ingots, in this case muffin tin ingots. From here, they're ready to remelt when you're ready to cast. You can sell them, or you can just hang on to them until you do need more lead. But it makes a great way to get free or inexpensive lead from the range. The range should even thank you since you're recycling for them. But it's always nice to have some lead and be ready to make your own bullets. Till the next time, thanks for watching. Click subscribe if you want to see similar videos, and thank you. Goodbye.